Hello world and welcome to World's End Tarot. Today we're going to be doing a reading all about how you come across to others, what your best features are and where your opportunities for growth are as well. We're going to be doing 4 different readings. We're going to be going with pile 1 here with the citrine stone, a beautiful, happy, bright colour there. We also have for pile 2 the moonstone, and then for pile 3 we have the little chunk of amethyst, and then for pile 4 we have the quantum quattro piece. So those are your choices if you're picking with crystals. I'm also going to be using the Tarot of Whimsical Moments to align a card of, well, a token card really for yourself for each of these stones. And then I want you to pick the one you're feeling the most drawn to right now. Filming in a slightly different place today, just so you are aware. Just experimenting a little bit with where I feel comfortable reading. Just wherever it feels right to actually read for you guys. That's just something that's happening here. So let's see what's coming up for amethyst, please. There we go. And the quantum quattro, that was immediate. Here we go. Let's get these lined up a little bit so they look better in the frame. And then I'll go a little closer in for you guys for each of these cards. So, for those of you who are feeling attracted to the citrine, this is the card coming up for pile 1 right now. This is the Major Arcana card for the Magician. And there is your crystal as well. Now let's have a look at pile 2. The moonstone and also the tower, another Major Arcana card. Okay. Then for pile 3 we have the amethyst, and we now have also the 9 of Pentacles. If you're feeling attracted to pile 3 today. And then in number 4 with the quantum quattro, we also now have the Ace of Wands. So those are your choices today for the reading. I just want you to take a moment, let yourself be calm, take a few deep breaths in and out, clear your mind and let yourself be drawn to the card, the crystal or the pile number that you feel is most talking to you at this time. And I will see you in your reading. Hello pile 1, this is your choice again. To remind you, we have the citrine card, the citrine crystal and the magician card for you here. And that's for pile 1, which is interesting because it's 1 and 1 for the magician as well. So brilliant. I am going to pick out some of your oracle cards, and we're also going to be picking out some more tarot cards so that we can learn a little bit more about where your particular strengths lie and also where your opportunities for growth are here in the reading of how other people see you, how you come across. So let's find out for pile 1, please. How is pile 1 coming across? I have just cards just fell out there actually as I was coughing. We have this very intriguing card coming up here. Co-create. Very intriguing card. And right next to it, actually, again with 40 and then 41, soulmates. So I am very interested in these. This is a really interesting pair of cards to have fallen out here, especially together with 40 and 41. If those are numbers that are significant to you in any way, pile 1, that might even be more of a sign that this is the right reading for you. I'm just going to move these a little bit over. Does pile 1 come across? Thank you. Again, 2 more cards coming out here. We have Secret Spring and Success. Let me see so you can see closer. Secret Spring and Success, and then we have Pure Spirit, Purification. So some really interesting cards here in the combination, pile 1. Really interested by this for you. I don't want to be too quiet during this reading, but I am in a very thoughtful mood as I'm watching these cards come out for you, pile 1. I'm just going to keep my cards to my chest until we're getting into the deeper part of the reading. Right now we're just working out how you come across to other people. What are your qualities that people pick up on when they meet you in person? What are you showing up like in the world, pile 1? Let's see. Okay, we have another one here. Talisman. I want to push these up so we can get all of them seen. Thank you. And one more. I think I'm going to go on this side. Yeah. Wow. Pile 1, you are very powerful. That much is clear. So let me find out blessings, blocks. Thank you. This is curious to me here. Okay, so we now have a full spread that is filling the entire screen for you, pile 1. There's some really interesting messages coming through for me here. The first thing that has become clear for me is how powerful you are, pile 1. That's how you come across to people. immediately. You have this it's almost unnerving how much powerful energy that you carry with you into your life. That's something that people pick up on immediately about you. Very much someone who is in control of their destiny. That's how people perceive you. Someone who really knows what they're doing. Someone who has a very clear vision. Someone who isn't afraid of hard work. Someone who is particularly good in a team. And someone, if you are partnered, it's almost as if you are in a power couple with that person as well. Just something about you and this other person, if this is resonating, if you are in a couple, that person and you are very intimidating as a pair. You're very much like almost the same person. It's also possible that there's two very distinctive sides to you, and that people sense that they get one side of you or the other. The combination is quite unpredictable and also, again, intimidating. It's very, I feel very much like it's a business sort of person. Like there's something very business-like about you, something very... I'm getting a maturity as well, that people sense a maturity from you. Someone who's very orientated around being successful, and in a very, it's like a romanticized sense, almost as if that's something that you're striving for, that you feel is a guaranteed happiness. It's like the way that you need to be in the world is very much to do with your work and your success being wrapped up in how you individually feel as a person. So a lot of identity wrapped up in that work. A lot of identity wrapped up in being somebody who makes things happen. And people perceive you as someone who's quite educated, someone who's quite clever with their words. It's funny because I don't think you're someone who's particularly talkative, but when you do talk, people are very, very impressed with what you say. But you come across as quite learned. I don't know if that is actually something that you are, but this is how you're coming across to other people. You come across as very wise, someone who has answers, someone who is trustworthy for possibly not so much asking advice, but almost as if people sense that you can predict things before they happen. And yes, and it's funny as well, like it's almost, okay, so there's some of you who have been in a partnership that no longer exists, and people perceive you to still not be over it, that there is still a big wound there. That's also coming through for me right now. It's not something that I don't think that's necessarily something people would want to raise with you. It's just something they privately think to themselves, that almost as if, oh, she has never been quite the same since the divorce, or that breakup really shook him in his foundation. There's something going on about that type of thing. It's not necessarily the most important thing. That seems to be a thought that some people have who really love you, and they'd like to see you happy, or they feel mournful that it didn't work out as well as the fact that you do too. They also share that with you. So it's coming not from a place of judgment, it's more coming from a place of friendship and family love. It's just observing that that's just been something in your story. If this is resonating, if that's resonating, it's just it's like an acknowledgement from those around you that something in your story has made you feel sad, and that they wish that was different for you. It's just they notice that change. That's also something that's coming through. Yeah, people see you as someone who's quite, it's almost as if you're quite, it's like you see things in black and white, very, very clear. It's quite, I don't know if our American viewers are going to understand this, but if you're quite Marmite, in Britain we have this saying, we say someone's quite Marmite, or that show was quite Marmite. And the reason we say that is because Marmite is like a yeast extract that people put on their toast and butter. It's really, really bitter, and some people love it, and some people absolutely hate it. And it feels like you're one of those people, not that it's people who love or hate you, not at all. And you're one of these people who has a Marmite response to the world. You either love something or you hate something. Like, that's kind of how other people perceive you. Of someone to be kind of a little bit of like extremes rather than in the middle so much. You're someone who really, really goes for something or just leaves it completely suddenly. Like, and for some people, I think that's where that unpredictability for them comes from. It's almost as if you're both very impressive and also very intimidating, partly because people perceive you to be slightly unpredictable. I don't think that you are unpredictable, pile one, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like other people perceive you to be. That's not the same thing as being unpredictable though, just so we're clear. It's funny because it's almost as if people assume that you're going to say or think something about one thing and you completely surprise them. And that's just kind of what it's like hanging out with you. You're just someone who really often quite, can surprise people, particularly surprise people with what you're capable of being, what you're capable of doing, what you're capable of achieving. Because you're someone who really is quite driven by success and will get success as you keep going with your endeavors. It's just, if that's not something that somebody else prioritizes with their own life journey, they may sometimes feel that they don't have very much in common with you. And that can be some of the reason why they're a little bit hesitant to get to know you better. You're really, 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 really blessed. One of your most admired aspects for people is that you are someone who is very learned, someone who feels very informed, somebody who is also really open to learning new things. You're not someone who feels like they know everything already, so has nothing to be taught, nothing to learn. You're not like that at all. The thing that people most admire about you is how open-minded you are about learning something that is new to you. It can be something that is surprising for those who have misjudged you, but it also makes an awful lot of sense, because if you're someone who's as industrious as I can see that you are, someone who's as independently minded and who really is actively manifesting the life that they want to live, that you are, of course, someone who wants to learn things that you don't yet know, because that's one of the key things that entrepreneurial spirit has. Like, you're someone who enjoys that adventure of learning, and there are people who really, really admire that about you. There's something very exciting, very electrical about the way that you are perceived by these people. They see this intelligence and this intellect and this willingness to open your mind, and they just love it. It's really engaging for people. That's something that's particularly admired in you, pile one. One of the things where I think there's opportunity for growth is you do seem to be a little bit you're a little bit too quick off the mark sometimes to make, particularly when you're making more creative decisions. And there's something about you being quite impulsive, which I think I've been picking up on. I've been saying unpredictable for most of this reading, but I think that's how other people interpret this impulsivity. I think this is a room for growth here for you, pile one, because although impulsivity can sometimes be a really good fire starter for us to gain levels of success, to network and get the things that we want, there's also a little bit of a softly approach that might actually be a little bit more effective sometimes. And I feel like sometimes, pile one, you seem to be carried away with the mood of the moment, and you just sort of run with that impulsivity, where it might actually be better to learn how to hold back a little bit more and think more intellectually before you make certain moves, particularly to do with those business moves or those relationship type moves. The impulsivity is definitely a place where you can grow and learn to temper that slightly in yourself, because it does kind of, for some people it's a little unnerving. It's like they can't quite predict what you're going to quite do moment to moment, and it's very much this energy coming in here with this magical shapeshifter energy. It's a little bit like they can't quite place where you're at. But But I will say, pile one, the way that most people perceive you and the way that you're most loudly coming forward is somebody who's a doer, somebody who's really making those active, practical moves to manifest the life they want to live, who is particularly driven by intellectual pursuits and is very talkative on those types of things. Actually, maybe not, no. You're not so talkative. It's just that if you're asked about something that you're passionate about, you can definitely speak on that with authority, and that's something that people admire about you so much. It's just very much a creative endeavor for you to investigate those particular ideas or to expand your mind and to study. And that is why, for many people, you're one of the wisest friends that they have, and that your sort of lasting impact when you leave people is that you are somebody who is extraordinarily intellectually stimulating and who leaves people with lots of buzzing thoughts and memories of fantastic conversations that they didn't think they were going to be having before they sat down with you that day. And so I really, really send you so much love, pile one, because this is a really beautiful aspect of yourself. And if you were looking for a little bit of advice about how to grow in some of the areas that might be a little bit more challenging for you, I would look into the impulsivity aspect that I was touching on with this card here. And possibly look a little bit if you were resonating with what I was saying about lost love, resonating a little bit more with that. If that was the case, I would look into opening up a little bit more with those that you trust in your life and healing a little bit more from that, if that's something that feels like that would be beneficial to you. But in the meantime, pile one, I hope that you enjoyed this reading. It was a little quick one about how people perceive you. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, pile one. Hello, pile two. Welcome to your reading about how people perceive you, what they admire, and some places for possible growth. You chose the Moonstone and the Tower card, a really potent combination for you, pile two. Something that I am very excited to see what comes up for you here with. I'm going to just do a few of my oracle cards first, and then we're going to dive in to a few tarot cards, and we're just going to see what comes up. Just going to see how you come across to other people. Bear in mind, sometimes how we come across is not really accurate of how we're feeling on the inside, so this is really just a curiosity reading about how you may come across in the world with people who you're meeting on a daily basis or who you're meeting up with energetically. Just how you are. So let's have a look. How is pile two? How do they come across to the people that they meet? Let's see. Okay, here we go. First card. How's pile one coming across to the people that they meet? Thank you. There's your last card there for this one. Ooh, that's interesting. Right, let's see more of these. Pile. I think I was saying pile one before, but my mind was saying pile two. Pile two, please. How are they showing up? This one here. Pile two, please. How are they showing up? Thank you. Oh, beautiful. Just let's get these little ladies all lined up for us. Two more, please, for pile two. Pile two, please. How are they showing up, please? Thank you. This one here. And one more, please. How are they showing up? Thank you. Oh, I'm enjoying this. Then I'm going to go quickly into our tarot cards just to boost up the meanings. I feel like this one's here. Thank you. Blessings for opportunities for growth. For pile 2, please. Opportunity for growth for pile 2. Thank you. Okay, pile 2. Now, I'm gonna just show you some of these cards as we go forward. So, one of your cards came up here for the Oracle. We have the Observer here. As we can see, I think that's a fox. It's a fox looking up at the moon with a, what are they called? Oh my gosh, a telescope. And the next card we have here is a baby bear climbing onto its mama's back, and we have a leg up. Then, from our other oracle deck, we had air, spirit, and knowledge. One of those cards I really am attracted to. I really get a lot of, I don't know, I just love that card. And then we also had, for you, pile 2, we had butterfly, spirit, and transformation. Really interesting interpretation of transformation. They're very much like Venus in the shell. We also have storm fields coming up for you, which is interesting, pile 2, because it came under your tower totem card here. So we'll think about that a little bit further. And then we had in your blessings, we had 6 of Pentacles coming up here for you. And in our center of the reading, I have the Emperor, another major arcana for you, pile 2. Then with some space to grow, I also have the Queen of Pentacles coming up here below knowledge. So I have to think about what that's meaning for you, pile 2. I really like your cards though. And then last but not least, we have another oracle card coming through with details. So there we go. This is what we're working with right now. I really like this card here. It's clarity, important notes, interesting. Okay. So one of the main things I'm getting from this spread about how you come across to other people, pile 2, is they really see you as someone who's very detail orientated, someone who is particularly interested in the smaller, finite things that maybe others might pass by or not notice immediately. You're someone who picks up on really small cues, and it's partly because you come across, and I think this is true of you, as someone who is extremely astute and watching other people and watching other situations, watching things to see how they unfold. I don't know if this comes from necessarily needing to know things because you're interested in knowledge, and this comes up a few different ways. I also think this is a hypervigilance thing, and I'm saying that partly because I do feel like this tower and stormfield combination tell me that there is some sort of chaotic sort of mental load going on, or possibly you're someone who has also had some pretty significant hurdles that you have overcome or are currently overcoming. And part of the reason why you are so observant is because you feel you need to be, and other people do pick up on that with you. It's not a criticism or a judgment at all, pile 2. This is just what the cards are picking up on, and I think that a lot of us can empathize with those particular sentiments of really feeling that we would like to we feel better, more calm when we know all of the things that are going on. And it's sort of a way to help control things. I'm getting that because the Emperor card and the placement for that, it shows me that other people seem to perceive you as being somebody who is quite interested in following the rules, partly because the rules are there for a reason and they have a maintenance of keeping people safe, whether that's emotionally or physically, but also because for you, Pile 1, I think that rules provide you with a guide about how you can actually progress towards your own goals in life. And there does seem to be a feeling of progression coming through the cards. I'm seeing somebody taking one step at a time up a ladder, specifically, and that just feels like a way that you understand how best to help yourself overcome difficulties in whichever way they seem to come. So it's a combination of people perceiving you as someone who is on the lookout for possible difficulties coming up for them, as well as somebody who is actually very robust about working hard and maintaining good boundaries so that you can help yourself progress. These are just the ways that people are perceiving you, and whether or not this is true, I mean, it's up to you. But if this is other people's perceptions, I mean, I don't know. I'm in two minds about other people's perceptions. Sometimes other people are completely correct the way that they read us, and other times they're completely wrong. So it's up to you how you feel about this Pile 2. I think these are very admirable traits, and I really understand where you're coming from, or at least where other people are perceiving you to be coming from. I really understand it, because I do feel like there is a sense of you having actually really witnessed true disaster, or at least it's been something that's really scared you. Like, they're just, in my head, I'm like, this could be if you were younger and your parents had to foreclose on a house that you were living in. Like, we're really truly talking about, feeling the need to make sure that everything's in order and that you have a really good understanding of anything that could be coming around the corner so that it's not unforeseen, and that making sense, and that being something that provides you with security and stability. So there's something really, really lovely in this as well, though, Pile 2. The way that other people perceive you in the ways that we've already touched on, that's all fine and good. But one of the biggest ways that people admire you is coming out here in the Observer and the Six of Pentacles pile here. You're someone who notices when other people are in need, and then you look after them. And that is the biggest piece of admiration that other people have for you. You really are tentative for other people's needs. You step in and you look after people who don't have as much as you, or you're always willing to share. And it comes from a place of truly a generosity. Yes, at root there's a charitable aspect to that, but really this is about forging really loving friendships for those around you. You really care about your family and your friends in that way, and you really are very willing to share your resources with other people and to spend time talking with them as well. You're not necessarily someone who would give money if you don't have it, but you do if you do have it to give. I'm also seeing somebody giving the gift of time with a lot of people. You truly hold space for other people, and I think that you can observe somebody struggling quicker than maybe other people can, and they notice that quality in you. Could be that you feel sometimes that you're the therapist of the group or something, or at least you're definitely providing a particular type of beautiful friendship or relationship support to people who are extremely appreciative of that quality in you. And like I say, part of that is you are a fantastic observer, not just of situations, but of people. So it's a beautiful thing to be Pile 2, and I really recognize that is something that others are really grateful for you. That quality that they have, that they see that you have, they're really grateful that you have it. And it's one of their favourite things about you. It's not a very common quality, actually. Quite a lot of people are not very good at reading other people, especially not quite knowing how to approach a maybe a deeper conversation. Some people really struggle with that, but pile 2, you're not one of them. There's also a little bit of a story here about places, an opportunity for growth here, because I'm asking, what are potentially some of pile 2's blocks and their opportunity for growth through that block. And we were getting the Queen of Pentacles coming up here strongest. So I wonder if you're very generous but maybe don't quite have the means to be as generous as you'd want to be, or possibly there's something a little bit about money here particularly, and it might be that you need to be a little bit more spendthrifty about money. It's also possible that you need to nurture yourself before you actually give to others. It could be that you're not watering your own garden before you offer to help water someone else's. And I mean that not necessarily in the literal sense, although it could be literal, but I'm meaning that more in the metaphorical sense. So I'm talking about you taking better self-care and taking better time and space and boundaries for yourself, because you're someone who really requires boundaries. It's a really good way for you to stay safe. And I do wonder if sometimes in your effort to look after other people that you may be slightly forgetting that you also need to prioritize yourself first. So what's it that they say when you're in like the plane and they're like, you have to put your oxygen mask on before you put other people's on? And it's kind of like that. This is an opportunity for you to see that you get better at that skill of already being fulfilled before you worry about other people, and not coming from such a people-pleasing kind of place, pile 2. There's also a really so it's also really interesting. This is one of the more unusual aspects of your read, pile 2. You have other people perceive you to have changed and like really like matured into yourself of late. They're watching you transform. We're getting that with a very obvious card of transformation here, with the butterfly spirit. But I'm wondering, actually, I feel like quite a lot of people have known you, the ones that we're talking about for this reading. It's like quite a lot of people have known you quite a long time, and they've actually seen you go through some really intense stuff, and they are seeing you coming out on the other side of that and be stronger for it. And there's a lot of admiration for the way that you're turning up in the world right now, the way that your energy is showing up, pile 2. It's really it's strong but delicate. There's just quite a lot of just really, really feeling quite embodied in yourself. You're someone who people are really admiring the way that you're showing up in the world right now. You're somebody who's, it's like a glow up kinda, but it's more impressive than that almost. It's just like, I think a lot of people have known that you've come through such a darker, difficult, challenging time that they're really noticing that that's not the case anymore. That's not really who you are anymore. And they're just, it's like, they can't help but admire how far you've come. So, I mean, well done, pile 2. It's a really beautiful thing to have people notice about you. And lastly, I would say as well, there's a little bit of acknowledgement here. I think I hadn't really got into this as much, but there's definitely perception of you as being somebody who's particularly well read, somebody who's, I mean, the knowledge card is here, but the details card as well. This is talking to me, and it's like it's going details, air spirit, emperor. They're kind of all speaking to me together, and it's telling me this story of people seeing you as someone who's very learned, someone who's very determined, somebody who thinks with their head, like their thoughts, somebody who's is quite like meticulous about details, someone who's really, I mean, I'm seeing things like science and maths and like words. I'm seeing a lot of quite things that are quite like intellectually just impressive to other people who, most people are not as intellectual as you, and that's just something people like about you. I don't know, it's something that people are like, yeah, she's like a brain box. There's something like that about it. Like she's always read loads of books, like she eats them for breakfast, or yeah, he's always been fantastic at physics, or she's been amazing as far like this. She's pursuing this really obscure chemistry thesis. There's something going on like that. There's something where people look at you and they're like, oh my gosh, did you know that she wrote a novel in her spare time, like between shifts? Like it's like a quiet thought to themselves. It's almost as if people kind of take a little bit of inspiration from the way that you like have pursued certain activities. It's like, wow, like I never knew that about them. It's like they kind of talk about your achievements when you're not around. That's kind of how it feels. And it's not like they're going to say like anything to you, because there's nothing really to say, but it's more just like people talk about your achievements in a really positive way when you're not around them, because they just are really impressed. And it's like they're not threatened or anything, it's just like they're really impressed. They just are like, oh gosh, I don't think I could ever do that. And I think this is roped in a little bit with the transformation. It's almost as if people are like, they can just see how far you've come, pile 2. They really can. So I just want to say thank you for coming to my channel today and watching this video, watching this reading. If you enjoyed it, pile 2, I'd love to have you subscribe and leave a comment. I do a lot of these videos and I'd love to have you back here. But until then, see you later. Bye, pile 2. Hello, pile 3, and welcome to your reading all about how others perceive you, some things that they admire about you, and also some room for growth. So here are the crystal and the card combination that you chose. We have the amethyst here, and we also have the 9 of Pentacles. So let's get into your reading. See what else we are working with. I'm going to pick some oracles for you, some oracle cards for you, pile 3, and we're just going to ask, how do others perceive you? We have, wow, that's so interesting. Not for you. Oh, that's a weird card to have. I find that really interesting. Unusual, pile 3. Let's see what else we have going. Felt this one. By the book. By the book. Some more oracle cards to flip through. Yeah, this one here. Forest, temple, enlightenment, and then another, please. Wow, they're very chatty. Another one. Oh my gosh. Okay, calm down. Nice clear card, please, for pile 3, Spirit. Fine. Courage. Metamorphosis. What else do we have coming up here? That one completely flew, so that one's coming out. Balancing act. And then I am going to choose some tarot for you. So blessings. What do they most admire? The Empress. room for growth. Thank you. 6 of Wands. One last card, please, for pile 3. Thank you. The Death card. Okay, pile 3. So let's just see these other oracle cards a little bit closer. You have here the Forest Temple and Enlightenment coming up for you there. We also have Aspen Spirit and Courage. Card I really like. Then I pulled out these other cards on the bottom. We have Balancing Act. We also have Metamorphosis. And then we had the Empress. We also had the Death card. And we also had the 6 of Wands coming out for you, pile 3. So, So how are you perceived by other people? It's funny because I wonder a little bit about how accurate their perception actually is of you because of the cards that have come up here. There's, first of all, this really interesting perspective that they believe that you're not lucky. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but that's how you're being perceived. This idea that there are paths in life that are just not up for your, they're just this is not for you thing. These paths in life that are not for you, partly because they perceive you to be unlucky. It's not that you're not worthy, it's just that there's just like, oh, they never quite get what they want. There's something like that going on. I'm not so sure if that's true of you as a person though, pile 3. I'm not so sure that that's accurate as a perception, but it's certainly a perception that you seem to have. I find it really interesting and curious. There's also this idea of you as being somebody who is following in a progression. I do wonder if you have some familial expectation, that there may be some sort of inheritance or expectation about what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to be living your life, and that is perceived by other people, that you have some kind of legacy that you are expected to follow, that there's a rule book that's already been in place before you were born almost, that you're coming from a family that had plans for you when you were an infant, or possibly even before you were conceived. Like there's something going on about that, which might actually tie into this idea of you not getting to do what you might want to do, that you might not be as lucky as some others with the freedom to choose more. But I'm also seeing that they perceive you to have quite a lot of resources at your beck and call. So I'm wondering if you're from a family that is perceived as having money, or that you have money, or you're perceived to have money, regardless of whether or not that's the case. Certainly there does seem to be some kind of feeling of legacy coming through your cards, and some kind of I would say that there's some kind of abundance going on. Yeah, there's definitely a feeling of legacy. I'm looking at the Empress card and I'm seeing that there's an infant inside her womb in this card, but she's also holding a crown over the infant's head. It's almost as if it makes me think of Queen Victoria and how she had so many children. Just like this idea of legacy. This is how other people perceive you, that you're coming from a legacy, or that you're creating a legacy almost. I think it feels more that it's that people perceive you to be somebody who has some big shoes to fill. And yeah, it's just not what I don't know. I never have any expectations of reading for you guys on here, but for me, I'm quite interested by this. It's also quite, there's like another side of you where people perceive you to be very unusual, quite spiritual, and also with a huge amount of bravery. You're somebody who is not afraid to say what they think, someone who is quite happy. It's ironic that you have this ideal of, that might be why. So there's this, the idea of legacy, that your friends or family or whatever, they have this perception of you having this legacy. And then on top of that, they perceive you to be very courageous and kind of just like very up for trying new things and growing out of your boundaries. And so I think this is the reason why there's something about them perceiving that possibly that the paths that you may naturally have chosen to take may not be available to you because of a particular path that's already been written for you. And I think that might be the reason that they see that. It's almost as if they can perceive that you're both lucky and also unlucky, that you have a kind of poison chalice, or there's two sides, like two sides of the story, that both sides of the sword are like they both cut different ways. It's just how it is. And they really admire you, to be honest. It's not a burden that they would choose to have themselves, but they also appreciate that you have some things that are quite privileged compared to others. There's no jealousy there, though. It's very, they very much see this this story that we're on now as being something that they're aware that that this doesn't come without cost, that this perceived wealth, and I'm going to say wealth, I do feel like it is wealth, is not coming without expectation. And they really see you as someone who's like really living a life of, there's luxury here. They really do see you living a life of luxury. That you're quite, I feel like you might be quite eccentric. There's something here about being a really unusual character, somebody who really changes things up quite often, and who, I wonder if they see a side of you in private and they know that you also have a very particular public side that you have to maintain. The balancing act story here with the courage, I think this is partly why they have such an admiration for your courage. They find you very courageous in the way that you conduct yourself. They can see that you balance both sides of this world. You have the part of you which is very much, in essence, like with you as a person, very much somebody who is experimental and quite spiritual, somebody who is willing, like, you're kind of rebellious. There's something adventurous about this energy, actually. There's something rebellious. I'm feeling that there's something rebellious here. I'm wondering if you're tempted to push some of this stuff that is expected on you away, that this seems to be, well, in a way, other people seem to be thinking that you're someone who's going to be the person that says, you know what, this worked for my mother or my grandmother or my great-grandmother and it's not going to work for me. Or like my father, my great-grandfather, my great-great-great-great-grandfather, it's not going to work for me. And there's something about that aspect of this expectation being ended. Not in a bad way, just like it's coming from a place where you're quite courageously self-expressing, that you've sort of decided that the balancing act is no longer worth balancing for. So this is kind of coming up here. It's very interesting to me. It's quite a convoluted perception of you. It's like all these things are true at once, but there's no judgment. Like, it really is quite like whoever these people are who are perceiving you this way, there is a lot of admiration for you. One of the most admiring parts of you is that they really feel like you're somebody who has so much potential to choose to do whatever the hell they wanted to do. And I feel like there might even be some sort of frustration of watching you have something to live up to, because they feel like it's not really like fair on you, because you might even be someone who could surpass whatever expectation is placed on you. It's almost like these people are perceiving you to have limitations that are not fair for you to have, because you're bigger than that. That they can see that you could actually change things up and become something very, very, very unusual if you were given the space to do that. This is partly how people are perceiving you. And I think that they are also possibly thinking that you may end up having to say no to certain things for you to be free of expectation, rather ironically. I don't know how they feel about that. I think that's just what they're predicting themselves. That's how they're perceiving the particular way that you're coming up here, pile 3. It's like you're constricted by the idea of how you're supposed to be, but like they can see that you're bigger than that. You've definitely got the courage to be able to make those choices should you wish to make them. They can really see that might happen. I wonder if you might be quite young and these people are a little bit older than you and are predicting how you might be when you're older. There's something there where they're going, well, you say that now, but when you wait till so-and-so turns 18, there's something like that. Or insert your age here. There's something about this idea of at some point this person may rebel against the system that they've been born into, and that these people I'm talking about, the perception of you is quite, they're quite excited to see what you choose to do and however this turns up. Like they just really have a lot of faith that you have something else to offer or something more to offer. You could even build on this legacy in a way that no one saw coming. It's just that there's also this this is what the metamorphosis thing is coming. It's almost as if like there's two sort of ways of them perceiving how you may behave. One of them is to leave something behind completely. The other one is to change it so completely, like it changes up so much that no one could ever have predicted what would happen. There's something very creative going on here and very rebellious and quite, I don't know, I'm getting that sort of Pan energy, that Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream energy about you, pile 3. This is, you're thought of very fondly. People find you very funny. They find you very unusual. You're very eccentric actually to people, how you show up, at least how they perceive you to be. You're quite unusual character. I'm looking also here at like things that could possibly block you off actually. Interesting. Okay, 6 of Wands here, this one with the hummingbird. This was the this like, where are your opportunities for growth? Like where I must say, pile 3, apologies if you can hear some sort of drilling in the background. I do have some neighbors who are doing some work. If you are, the 6 of Wands here is talking about this opportunity for growth, and here it's coming underneath this Forest Temple enlightenment. And at first in the reading, I know I was saying that you seem quite enlightened, and I wonder, and spiritual as well, but I wonder if you haven't had the chance to really explore that part of you yet. I can feel that people perceive that in you already, but I wonder if I'm right and you're somebody who is either quite young in a physical sense or someone who's young in an emotional or experiential kind of sense, that maybe there's an opportunity for you to travel a little bit more and investigate that more spiritual side of yourself, to really enlighten yourself a little bit more. It's almost as if you haven't had the chance to really grow properly yet, and other people are watching you thinking, gosh, they're capable of so much, and like I really want them to get out of the world and see, get into the world and see all of these other things that could be possible for them, because they're very unusual, very talented, very unique, and they have that courage and that drive, and I want to see them reach their full potential. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for you to travel. If you can take it, please do, because there's something about you unlocking particular types of knowledge about yourself during travel that is just something that other people can't explain to you if you haven't lived it yourself. And I feel like, to be honest with you, pile 3, in this particular spread, I feel like there might be a lot of money available for making choices like that. And so if that's the case and that's resonating with you, I would access that wealth, that money, and use some to go and experience some more enlightening experiences in the world. Really get to know yourself better, particularly looking into a spiritual kind of setting. In whatever way that makes sense for you, because there's lots of different ways to interpret that, and you're going to be the only person on the planet who can individualize this reading for yourself. I'm only a tarot reader on YouTube. I can only say so much. So you're going to know what I mean, but there's just such an opportunity for you to get out of your own space and like really, you need to get to know yourself better. I think that's what other people perceive about you, is that there's all this potential going on, there's all this foundation that's been laid, and ironically all of this potential, all of this success, like all of this resource or something, it's almost as if it's slightly trapping you in one particular set of rules about how you're supposed to behave, like what is acceptable in this. And I think it's a family dynamic, and what is acceptable behavior in this family dynamic, what is acceptable for you to build up. Like there's a life script that's quite strong, and there's something about stepping out of that life script, because you're really very much capable of a lot more. This Empress card really is talking about a legacy of your own. Like you set a new legacy, you're from a legacy, and then you reset it so it becomes like relevant again. And I feel like people perceive you a particular way, partly because you're almost like an oxymoron for people. You're almost like you're so unlimited, and yet at the same time they see the limits that are happening, are very real limits. There's absolutely no judgment. If anything, like I can really see there's a lot of love here. There's a lot of admiration. One of their favorite things about you is just how unusual you are. I feel like you could feel sometimes you're like the black sheep of the family or something. If that's a term you're not familiar with, please Google it. It's just about not really feeling like you fit in quite as well as you could do in your flock. But also the thing about, if you're someone who's familiar with farming, the thing is about black sheep and black wool is like it's prized highly above the other types of wool because it's so beautiful, and people can make some really beautiful knitwear with it. Because it's so naturally unusual and it's just gorgeous. So you have this unique kind of, there's something unique about you, and people sense that in you, and there's just something very alluring about you and very mysterious, and I feel like you haven't reached your full potential yet, and a lot of people who are seeing you and perceiving you can sense that and are excited to see what you'll do. So pile 3, I hope that was enlightening and inspirational and encouraging for you. If you enjoyed my reading and would like to see more, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you back here. But until then, see you later, pile 3. Bye. Hello, pile 4. This is your reading for how other people perceive you, what they think of you, what they admire about you, and some opportunities for growth. And you chose these beautiful card and crystal combination. This is the Quantum Quattro stone, and we also have the Ace of Wands here for your card. So pile 3, let's get into the reading and have a little look and see what is going on. I think the light is failing me now, but I will continue to read. I'm going to be choosing some oracle cards for you, pile 4. Did I say pile 3? I think I'm all over the place. In my head, I'm going pile 4. I'm going to choose some cards for you, pile 4, because I need to know what we are dealing with here. Let me try and put on the overhead light as well. That's a little better. It's just that time of the day when the sun starts to set and everything starts to turn yellow. And my ring light is in another location, so I apologize. Right, pile 4. How do they perceive pile 4, please, Spirit? Let's get some information about pile 4. Okay, I have this one coming up here. Time for a nap. Another card, please, for pile 4. Another card for pile 4, please. How do they perceive them? Thank you. We also have deep knowing. I will show you these a little closer in a moment. I'm just going to get them all together. How do they perceive them, please? How's pile 4 perceived? Spirit, how's pile 4 perceived? How's pile 4 perceived? Oh gosh, 2 at the same time. You're done. We'll get some more. So we have Standing Stones Passage, and we have Wild Rose Fairy with Love. Let's get these a little bit better arranged so we can all fit them in. Beautiful, thank you. Right, 2 more oracles. For pile 4, how are they perceived, please? Pile 4, how are they received, please? Received, perceived. How are they perceived? Getting closer. Okay, thank you. Commitment. It was that card before I even picked it. Yep. Pile 4, you might have some messages going on in pile 1, just so you're aware. If you were also attracted to pile 1 and you chose pile 4, but you were thinking about pile 1, then I would go ahead and watch both of those readings. Okay, let's see the last couple of your cards, please. Blessings for pile 4. That one. Thank you. Beautiful. Opportunities for growth. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's have a little look at the artwork of these cards, just so you're aware. You are getting time for a nap. You are getting deep knowing. Some similar imagery going on in here. We also have more than one owl. If an owl is of any significance to you, there you go, pile 4. This can be seen as a bad omen sometimes. We also have Standing Stone and Passage. I'm not sure why. For me, an owl always means wisdom. And then we also have the Wild Rose Fairy with Love coming in. Beautiful. Then down here we have Commitment, which is just under Love, which is very interesting for me. He's struggling for focus. There we go. Then we also have, let's go, the last oracle, which was Magical Shapeshifter. And then your tarot, we have the Hierophant with the secondary owl, both these owls. We have the 5 of Cups. And we also have the Hermit. So we have some very interesting perceptions that other people have about you, pile 4. First of all, I will say that there is a very quiet energy about your cards coming up, and I do feel like this is something that other people perceive you to be quite a quiet, mellow type of person. Mellow, I'm not sure if mellow is the right word. There's something about quiet though. Maybe calm might even be some of the... Maybe mellow, I'm not sure. It's difficult to think of the right words sometimes when you just get this feeling and you're like, there's not enough words in the English language to try and explain what I'm getting at. Yeah, there's definitely a mellowness. Yeah, it's a mellow thing. There's something about there's a calm thing coming through with your cards. Pile 4. You're very mysterious for some of these people who are perceiving you. It's almost like you're slightly aloof to them. They can't quite get a read on you. They can't quite work you out. There's also a sense that you know things partly because you're someone who's suffered sorrow in the past, that you're someone who's acquainted with grief, and that you have learned things that maybe other people are yet to have learned, partly because they're the kind of lessons in life that you only learn through going through them. So it's very much, you're giving off the impression of someone who's very wise. You're giving off the impression of somebody who is quite bookish, or at least learned. But I would also counter that saying it's not necessarily in an intellectual sense. It's almost like you're someone who is you read quite a lot, or there's something very creative about you. I don't know. I don't think that you. I don't know. Let me feel through this. You have a very calming energy, pile 4. That's for sure. That's something people pick up on. I also want to say to you that you're someone who a lot of people admire in terms of like, I wonder if you've been in a very long relationship and people really admire that about you. It's something that, it's just something that, it's like you come in a pair, or at least they admire your approach to relationships, and I mean love matches. There's something about, you're not someone who's frightened of committing to a love match. You're someone who knows how to love people quite well, and there's a calmness and a wiseness in that. I wonder if you have been with someone for a very long time, and it feels like a very secure connection that you have with this person. And of course it could be a long-standing friendship, but I am really seeing it as a romantic, like a marriage or a very long-lasting partnership with someone. You're spiritual too, like they're kind of, I mean, I don't think it's that much of a guess to say that, like, if you're watching tarot readings, that you might be a little bit on the witchy side, but I wouldn't put it past you to be the sort of person who's made a pilgrimage to Stonehenge or something. And I'm saying that because this is what I'm seeing here, and I know that the autumn equinox is coming up soon, so some people will be doing that kind of thing. But you're someone who kind of, you know, you might be someone who enjoys like a standing stone, or if there's a crystal shop, you can't say no to going in, having a little look. But it's something that people find is quite curious about you. I think people perceive you to really be having a connection to the shadow world, that there's something about that witchy energy where they trust that that's something that's very authentic about you, that you're very clued in with that kind of you're experimenting with that. If anyone was going to be able to talk to the dead, or to be able to convene with spirit or anything, like, it would be you. People perceive you to be someone who's very able to do that, and there's definitely a mysterious, aloof kind of atmosphere that they have. They perceive you to have. I don't know if that's something that's true of you, pile 4. This is just how people are perceiving you. It's not really, this is the thing, the funny thing about people's perceptions, and I think I've said this before in some of the earlier readings, is that people can perceive whatever they want to perceive. It's not necessarily the truth, but, you know, it is what it is. You come across as someone people see as very wise, like very, very, very spiritually rooted in wisdom. And that has seemingly come from some aspect of grief, some aspect of having gone for a long time without. You're very soothing. I do wonder if some of you are watching, if you're someone who's either a parent or a grandparent, because I am getting some kind of sort of older energy. And particularly someone who has some younger children around them, that there's something about you being a very calm, safe place for other people. They perceive you as being a safe haven. Now you may be older, you may have someone who be someone who has children in their lives, but if that's not the case, whatever it is that you'll pushing out into the world, the perception of you is that you're someone who is very dependable and has that grandfather, grandmother energy about them. It doesn't mean you're old. Just get me that thing of that safety net, though. There's something about safety. People feel very safe with you. There's something about your presence that means that people can relax and be themselves properly. You are almost someone who can provide a space for people to really sleep. Like this time for a nap thing over here in this Hierophant, I see this combination. This is one of your strongest points. This is one of the things that people most admire about you. I feel like your presence in many people's lives is something of a rooting connection to themselves. Like there's something about, it's like there's something about you being someone who can give people a safe haven. You're a safe harbor in a storm. It's almost as if like if someone ran away from home, they know that your house is where they should be going. There's something, if there's something terrible, if someone realizes that something terrible happens to a friend, you're like the first person they phone, and you're someone who they can go to be safe. Like there's something about that. Like you really provide people with calm, kind energy. And that's partly because you're actually a traditionalist, ironically. I know that I was saying a lot of things about this witchy vibes energy, but there's also the other aspect to you is like people perceive you as being quite traditional. So it's maybe a surprise, like if they're into like the esoteric type of activities, but I don't think that's necessarily that unusual. I think that the traditionalist part of you is expressed in quite a lot of different ways. And one of them might be a long-term partnership, because that's quite a stable type of person who's able to maintain that and be happy in it to be something that's really quite healthy for them. But I also think you have quite a traditionalist approach to life, and there's something quite comforting in that for other people. They find that quite comforting. Like you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, whereas quite a lot of people fall into the trap of trying to do that, and they can find it quite hard. It's almost like you're like, no, there's ways to do things and there's a reason for that. And I'm not going to mess with something that doesn't need to be messed with. I trust in the way that I'm living my life. I'm happy on my own. I'm happy in a partnership, whatever. And I know this because I know that not having enough is really painful and scary. And so now that I have enough to share and I have enough to enjoy. And people sense that in you. That's something that they really admire in you. It's something that, it's something that people are very attracted to. I think you have a lot of things that people feel that you can teach them. So spending time with you is very informative, actually, if anything. It sort of is reinforcing lessons that they already know are true. They watch, it's like it's like a bell is ringing and they're hearing the same tone in their own soul. There's something very much like there's like an answer and a call and a question, and you are somebody who is able to give an answer. That's how people perceive you. It's a very calm energy I'm getting off these cards, pile 4. Very calm indeed. There's also a lot of repetitive imagery coming up for me. There's lots of flowers, there's lots of stars, there's lots of owls, and it feels very much like these are aspects of you. Like you are someone who is how do I say this? Traditional. I mean, I do think traditional is a way to explain it. The reason why certain motifs are being repeated is because they work and they're good. It's almost like the little signs of yourself, they're being repeated. So I'm saying you're someone who's consistent, and it's a comforting thing, actually, this consistency. It's funny because I'm saying that you're consistent, but at the same time I know that you're someone who's adaptable too. Like the changeable aspect of you is something that it cannot be avoided, but almost ironically, like that changeable aspect of you is also quite like consistent. You consistently change. And in what way would that be? I think it's through creativity. You're at your root, you're someone who is able to make new things. I wonder if you work with your hands, actually. In my head, I can see someone working with ceramics and like pottery and sculpture through clay, which I think is a really nice way to describe that type of energy that I'm picking up on with this magical shapeshifter and Ace of Wands. There's something about using your hands, making, it could be baking and like making food. There's something about that. There's something about, you have a daily practice of creativity, but whatever way this is, you're going to know what I'm talking about yourself, pile 4, because this is an individual thing for you watching this right now. It's not going to be the same thing for everybody, so I can't be too specific about this. So talk to me a little bit about daily creative practices. This is what we're talking about here, you know? This adaptability is also, ironically, some of the reason why you're particularly consistent and wise. It's like you have a really good balance of how to, I don't know, it's like you worked out a cheat code for life without sweating the small stuff too much. And this is kind of coming through. There's some banging going on in the next room, I'm sorry. One of my people I live with is making some food. Yeah, this consistency, it's something that is important, because if you're someone who has dealt with some heavier stuff in the past, as 5 of Cups is telling me you have done, you have a deep knowing that not everything is the way it is forever, and so somehow this is able to empower you to enjoy moments as they come. And there's almost this thing where people perceive that part of you very, like, it's like you would never ever interpret that lesson like verbally. You would never be able to express this verbally, that this is like why you are the way you are, but I feel like people sense that in you. Like when you say something, it's because you know it's true, and people realize and feel it's true, that what you're saying is not just something you read in a book, it's something you lived. You're speaking from a place of experience, and people sense that in you. And there's a lot of respect for you, I would say. I can feel there's a lot of respect for you. The comforting aspect and the fact that you are aloof sometimes means that when you do really hone in on someone and give them those moments of peace, the respect for you is tenfold. I do feel like you have a lot to teach other people, and that other people really, really actually sense that in you, pile 4. You are beautiful. These cards are gorgeous. I hope that this reading gave you some of those answers about how people perceive you, about some of your most amazing aspects. And also, again, I think I need to reiterate, the moment of growth is coming through here with this Hermit card and the Passage card. Funnily enough, although you have spent some time alone, quite a lot of time alone, I would say, really moving through different stages of life or lessons in life, there is a little bit here about maybe not isolating yourself quite as much as you have been. There's definitely something about moving into a period of your life where you're a little bit more emotionally and physically available to have more relationships with people. And I am seeing some of these relationships could be romantic, actually, going forth. Much of it's more about just being available to people in a way you hadn't really been before. This isolation, there's been a period of isolation for you, pile 4, and that seems to be not necessarily what Spirit has in mind for you for going forward. There's some kind of indication here from Spirit that there's room to grow in that area, that some of the blocks that you may experience are partly because you're spending a little bit too much time on your own and not necessarily using that time to refill yourself as much as you could be. You might be slightly isolated as opposed to happily alone. So I just want to raise that before we end the reading, because I feel like I hadn't actually got to that bit yet. I was too busy enjoying your amazing, wise, calm spirit that really comes so strongly through this reading, pile 4. It's really beautiful to see this. So if you enjoyed this reading, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you back. I always enjoy reading your comments, and until then, Pile 4, I will see you soon. Bye.